Every morning when this little girl woke up, she went to make sure that her mom was still breathing. She was always so scared that she would find her mom dead. Her mom was an alcoholic and a heroin addict. I met this girl when she was about 13 years old, and she told me in a very calm manner that through most all of her life, she would eat whatever some neighbor fed her or whatever she could find in the garbage cans outside, because her mom really did not go buy groceries very often. She would get food at school. If she wasn't on the free lunch program, and some of the time she was when her mom remembered the paperwork, and some of the time she wasn't, then she would watch other kids who were going to throw away their tray at the end of the day, or who had a lunch that they brought from home and stuff she knew that they were not going to eat. And she would beg it off of them, and she would eat people's leftovers or whatever people gave her. She said as she got older, she had a few friends, even though she was dirty and she smelled bad and she didn't have nice clothes, who would literally give her something every day, whether it was half of a sandwich or an apple or a Twinkie, and she survived. She was always scared her mom would not come home. There were many nights of her life where she was alone and frightened and didn't have electricity, so she couldn't watch TV, and she was cold. She'd have to wrap up in some old blankets. That was her life. In other words, she never had a life. When she got into the foster system, she didn't necessarily mind it. She didn't go through what some foster kids go through. She didn't struggle with the big adjustment. She wasn't angry like you might have suspected she would be. But she really didn't know how to do it. She didn't know how to have a life. If you're a foster parent, maybe one or more of your young people that have gone into your home or are in your home now are in that position. They've never had a life. So we might make a lot of assumptions that by the time someone's 10 or 12 or 14, they would know this, whatever that fill in the blank is for you. And you can't make that assumption because maybe they've really never had a life and they don't know anything about what life is like. What a rare, unique, and beautiful opportunity that you have to show this young person life, what it actually means to live and have a life. But do so gently. Don't insult their parent. I can't believe your mom, blah, 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 blah. I cannot believe that your dad never, da, 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 da. I knew another young man in foster care whose grandfather and dad were both very severe alcoholics. And he had looked after them for more than a decade of his life by the time he went into foster care when he was about 13. He was very defensive about his family of origin. He never wanted anyone to say anything to him. He couldn't even handle it in counseling, talking about them. That's my family. Don't say anything about them. So it's kind of a delicate line, but mainly you just want to show the young people that come into your home, regardless of their age, what life might be like. So you do set down guidelines for them. They have things they must do that they are expected to do, and that's very appropriate. And when those things don't happen, there are consequences. That's also very appropriate. They might not have ever understood that before. You let them know that there are privileges and opportunities. And when you are handed an opportunity or a privilege, you do not misuse it. You express gratitude about that. And then you make the most of that opportunity. So you say to them, you can play soccer. Well, okay. And you get them a uniform and you get them shoes and you sign them up for the league and you've really put out some cash. And after the first time, they go, well, I'm not doing that anymore. That's really stupid. Well, no, actually, you are going to do that. And I realize you may not have ever understood that before, but you made a commitment to this team and to this opportunity. And I made a commitment as well, and you're going to continue to go. So they are starting to develop a sense of what life looks like and how life works. The other thing is, you need to let them know that life is rich and full and fun. So you need to find out what fun is to them. And guess what? They might not know. What an amazing opportunity to explore. You take them roller skating. You take them to the beach. You take them to the pool. They don't know how to swim. Okay, let them flail around in the shallow end. Let them use wings so they feel foolish. Well, let them go to a swimming class. You take them skiing. You take them boating and water skiing. You take them on a picnic. You'd be surprised how many kids have never even been on something as simple as a picnic on the park and played on the swings and played on the merry-go-round and played on the teeter-totter and got to run in the woods or skip rocks along the creek. Go pick raspberries. I'm talking, if a kid really hasn't had a life, try to explore as many things as you possibly can with them so they start to get a sense that there is so much more to life. There will be times they resent this out of you. They resent that their family didn't do it, but they resent that you're the one showing it to them. Because somewhere in their mind or spirit, they know that's not how it's supposed to be. Those other people, my own mom, my own dad, someone should have shown this to me, and they did not. So they may be misdirecting their anger or their frustration toward you. And again, as the parent, you need to understand that. You don't have to take abuse or violence, but you do need to have some grasp that that's kind of an understandable response. And yet, still, you can show them so many things about how to have a life when they've never had that. You teach them things about organization and about discipline and all the things it really does take to manage and run a household. All of that takes into consideration age appropriate things. But as I said yesterday, a 7-year-old can put their shoes where they belong, make sure their homework is done and back in their book bag, and pick up their clothing and put it in the hamper, make sure that toys go back where they should be, and do at least a basic pull up the covers, make the bed thing in the morning. You need to give them that level of responsibility. Maybe not the first day they come to your house, but within a few weeks, you start building on skills and helping them develop a sense of belonging and purpose and responsibility for their own life. They're learning life when they've maybe never seen it or heard of it or certainly not learned it yet. It becomes more challenging as you have a child who's older and older. Again, I shared with you about a 17-year-old young woman who came to live in someone's home as a foster child, and she's still struggling with a lot of things. You need to have grace. There needs to be balance in your own thoughts about this that, okay, they've had 16 or 17 years of this, so of course they don't know. And they have so much to learn, and you just take each about every week and put a new building block and a new building block and a new building block, and you're starting off pretty foundationally about establishing the foundations of life. Then you're teaching them, oh, I can have a life. Like, I might actually be able to have a somewhat normal life. I know we've been talking about fostering this week. I want to make a statement to you. You might be surprised that some of your own children's friends are in this boat. They haven't been taken away from their parents, but they have very ineffectual parents or impaired parents, or I guess I'll use the language questionable parents. And you see evidence of this in a young child's life. Rather than calling social services that very afternoon, maybe you can take it upon yourself just to show that child a little bit about life, about having a life, and say, did you notice that Michelle, she has to keep her room picked up? And she puts her shoes right where they go every time next to the door in the shoe cubby. And she does her homework at the dining room table and then she puts it in her book bag. And she always puts her book bag right beside the door. You could do some of those things. I know maybe that's not how it's done at your house, but you could try it and see if that makes your life a little bit easier. You're not doing anything to insult or downgrade their parents. You're just acknowledging them, that they are a very responsible young human being, and they could do some of those things and improve their own quality of life. They could learn to have a life. All of us need to look for ways, for people, for opportunities to build into someone else's life. That's called being a contributor. I have a challenge question for you today. Whether you're a foster parent or a young person thinking about what kind of parent you will become, or a parent of your very own children, are you consistently, kindly, consciously contributing to their lives, to giving them a good life, a healthy life, a productive life, a happy life, a life of meaning? If you are, I'm so proud of you. Excellent. Good work. I really mean that, because it's a lot of work. And if you aren't contributing as much as you might, or if you haven't really thought about that before, in what ways are you going to change things in order that you might contribute more and more to those whom you love? I hope that you have learned something this week, gained something. It has been helpful to you. I would greatly appreciate hearing from you, your comments, your suggestions, a like, an email. Just please communicate with me, and I will look forward to seeing you again soon. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.